Welcome to The Forge Focus, a podcast through The Forge, where we focus on our mission of enhancing manhood through our three pillars of positive imagery, quality fellowship, and service to others. These three pillars were created to help fight toxic masculinity and promote a healthy aspect of manhood. Here we will have personal discussions with men in the community and beyond who exemplify this mission and can share their experiences and perspectives in efforts to make us all just a little better than we were before listening in. I mean, hey, let's face it, we can all learn from each other, right? And now, your host, Ebony McNeil. Prepare to be forged.
Hey everybody, thank you again for joining in on the episode 3 of the Forge Focus podcast, where we take our Forge message and we put it out on the platform by speaking to men out in the community and otherwise who will actually help push our mission forward. Today, before I even go into that, I just want to say, if you find value in our past episodes and are seeing the value that's going to come up in this episode, please make sure you go on, you watch the videos, you like the videos, and you, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. That'll help us keep growing and spreading the message even more. Thank you ahead of time for that. Now I'm going to dive in. We have a great guest today. This is a gentleman I am privileged to call friend for several years. I've watched this gentleman grow. He is a speaker, a coach, a trainer, and an author, and he does all of them exceptionally well. I have in front of me 2 of his books. He has The Leader's Toolbox, which is his most recent book, and he also has 7 Ways to Lead. He also has 2 books previous to that, Evolve and 7 Ways to Love. Seen them all, great reads. Make sure you get your hands on them. I'm not even going to go into introducing him, but so much. His name's Andre Young. Plenty of people know who he is. He travels the world speaking, travels the world training at businesses. And again, I'm happy to call my friend, and I'm going to let him do some more introduction. And Andre Young, how are you doing today?
Wow, I am doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me. You guys listening, thank you for letting us and me steal about an hour or so out of your time. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. So we're going to dive right in because I know you got some great nuggets that people need to hear, so I don't want to hold up anything. Why don't you go ahead and get started? I know a lot of the story, but explain to our viewers / listeners how you started, what you're doing now, and explain to them the evolution of where you got to, because me watching you grow as a friend, it was crazy seeing how you started to where you are now. So I'm going to let you go ahead and get started.
Wow. Well, basically what I do now is I'm a professional speaker, author, and leadership trainer. My company is called You Evolving Now, all with the mission on enhancing leadership and work-life harmony for, like you said, leaders, organizations, frontline, but people in general. The interesting part and the funny part that still makes me laugh, and I say this on stage and people think I'm joking, I'm not. I didn't mean to do any of this, okay? I didn't want to speak and I didn't want to write. So I was a mental health therapist for 19 years, and I honestly thought I would retire from that. It was my passion. I love being able to walk a journey with people. But to be very honest, although I still love helping people and I see value in the mental health profession, I fell out of love with how the system took care of the caregiver. So I also went through a divorce about now 16, 17 years ago. And going through that time of my life really allowed me to wake up. It allowed me to evaluate myself and who I was, who I wanted to be, how I was not leading myself. Because you could be leading your craft and people think they're doing good because they have the job or making money or have whatever they value. But it doesn't mean that you have everything else in order, that you're leading other parts. So through that, I call it keeping my eyes wide open. Most of the time when people go through pain, they cringe and they turn away or they get in their righteous pain. And for me, I chose to keep my eyes wide open. What was I doing great? What was I terrible at? And what did I actually want to focus on moving forward? So through that, I said, look, there is a bunch of people, particularly men at that time, that were only doing bad because they had nowhere good to go and no one good to do it with. So I created this organization, and it was in my living room called Men Evolving Now. And then it started to grow. And then there were strangers in my living room. And then that was weird. So I said, well, we got to get a space. And then it just kept growing from there and there. And then we wound up, women liked it. So we had a women's division. Then we were on college campuses. And now I have 12 staff. And all of these things are happening. And that's kind of how it happened. But in all of that, I knew it was going to die at some point. And I said, well, where do I want to be? I said, I want to be where people already are, at work, at school, and on their phones. How do I do that? So a friend of mine came and said, well, if you have a website, then you're going to have to write. And I was anti-writing. I was a mental health therapist, writing and signing 200 pages a week. I said, I'm done with writing. But I married my dream and not the path. And that's a nugget that I hope a lot of people pick up. When you marry your dream, you cannot marry the path. It will not always play out and you get to do only the things you want to do to get to your dream. So writing became a part of it. So I sat down one day and I said, how long is it going to take me to do this thing that I don't want to do? So I put I timed myself. I had my phone. It was a Saturday morning. Got coffee. How long is it going to take me to write this article? It took me 25 minutes. And I said, I can spare that. What can you spare? I said, I can spare that. So I wrote 3 times a week, 25 minutes each. Now it takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I write 1 time a week, but that's become 4 books.
True story.
Speaking, I was speaking in front of the men, and I started to stand up to make my point. And I realized the reaction I got when I stood up. So I would sit back down because I wanted to be like the hair club president and the member. I wanted to be one of the guys.
Yeah.
But they were looking for a leader. So eventually I kept standing up, but then I never sat back down. And I started marketing it to different companies. And then what they said they wanted wasn't what I was doing. So I started to marry what I wanted to do and give with what they needed most. And boom, it just took off.
Awesome. It's crazy because I'm listening to the story and I remember how far this goes back. I remember meeting you right going through your divorce.
Yes.
Literally, we seen each other.
I was moving into an apartment.
Yes.
And saw you across the way. Like that's how.
Yes, it was crazy because we had seen each other at the gym, spoken, hey, what's up, bro, blah, blah. And then I remember we were moving. I think Greg was moving in and you were either moving in or out, but we ran into each other. We ended up, all of us guys started eating. We got some lunch. We chilled, started talking. And we stopped moving for like 2-3 hours. We're sitting there talking. And from then on, it took off. And then I remember when I was cutting hair at my house.
Yes.
And I remember you came to me and said, hey, this is what I'm starting to do. And it was so cool because I'm sitting there going, when I look at you now with these books, I remember when you came to me, you had colored printer paper.
Yep.
With the sign you had made on Word, you said, could you give these out? And I was giving them out to the guys whose hair I was cutting. And it's so crazy because I'm like thinking about how inspirational it is that you took that and you never gave up. And where you are now is crazy.
Wow. Well,
based off of where you started. And like, that's a testament to, look, just decide what you want to do, marry that dream, and God makes a way.
Well, can I add one more piece to that?
For sure.
Be consistent. Life is going to give all of us a very noble reason to stop.
Yes. Ooh.
Whatever your dream is, do it and do it all the time. Find your process and simply do it daily. And you can evolve the process as it goes. But whatever you do all the time, you have to get better at. You'll get better at. So continue to do it. Like people say, well, the money got messed up, so I wound up having to get this job. Okay, great. Still do your dream. I remember my mom having being in a coma, and I'm visiting her in the hospital. Well, she's in a coma and she's asleep. I'm there holding her hand. I also have my phone in my hand, still doing my dream. Life is always going to give you a very noble reason that you can tell people or yourself why you stopped. When you don't stop, you will succeed in some level, shape, or form.
It's crazy. That might be one of the most powerful statements I've heard because, everybody talks about, I worked hard, but it just didn't work out, or I worked hard and this happened. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. I've never heard it put, they give you a noble reason. And that's a very strong statement, because saying it that way, it's going to be a point where people think about it and say, wow, okay, so just because something's a good reason doesn't mean it is the reason I should stop. Absolutely. And like, you hit me with that. Like, a noble reason is what a lot of people end up losing their dreams over.
Absolutely. There's always going to be a noble reason to stop. A number two mistake that people make, and that I could have made, we can all stumble with, is that we want to do our dream. And I mentioned it before, our way. You have a product. You want to sell your product because you believe in it and you want to do it your way. But if it's not what the person receiving your effort, and this is in sales, this is in leadership, this is in your love life, this is with your kids, you got to marry what you want to do and give with what the person receiving your effort needs most from you right now. I wanted to sell work-life harmony and personal development. When I spoke to leaders at organizations, they said, well, that's nice, but what does that do for us? Now, this is pre-COVID, before work-life harmony and all of that stuff mattered. It always mattered, but COVID hit and it really mattered. But what they wanted was leadership. So now how do I marry what I want to do and give with what they need most? Can we consistently marry things? And the trick is to do it just a little bit outside your comfort zone, but not so much that you wind up becoming resentful of them, the task, the ask, or whatever. You do that in every role that you play with people you have relationships with. It's amazing what will begin to happen. So one, you got to be consistent. Then you got to marry it appropriately. And, it's so important that we allow evolution to happen. We got to allow evolution to happen. It may not always be how you thought. I never thought I'd be doing this stuff. Allow evolution to happen.
Well, one thing you said that I want to dive back into, especially it really resonated with me, because you had mentioned that, when you started this, you started it as a men's group. Mm-hmm. I remember me and you meeting the one day, and we were like, are we doing the same thing? And we were, we sat down, you were like, sound like you're doing the same thing as me. I was like, I swear to you, I'm not. Mine is like the piece of yours that your guys, whatever, we talked about it, it was great. But it really resonates with me, because when you started, you saw the need for men to have this direction. So, and the Forge were all about enhancing manhood and things of that nature. So how did you morph it from, first off, what made you realize it was men that needed you the most at first?
Well, what made me realize that men needed it the most is because it was something that I lived. A lot of time we could be successful due to our failures. Okay. A lot of times people are failure avergent, like they don't want to fail. No, it's okay to fail. We are all going to fail at something, and whether that's at marriage, whether that's at a job, whether that's in sport, whatever it is. When you can extract the lesson from the failure, and not only learn the lesson, but identify the steps you took to get through it, you may have effectively become an expert. And you're not an expert to everybody, but you're an expert to somebody that's going through what you went through or about to. So when I was failing at marriage, this is what I was failing at. You guys ready? I was failing at being a leader of my own life. I break leadership down into two parts. It's personal leadership, and then the skills that it takes to effectively lead and run a team. Most people think it's always two when they think of leadership, leading a team and leading people. The first person you got to lead is you. And I did a very poor job of leading me. I was allowing things to simply happen to me. And because the things that were happening to me were seemingly good, I was an athlete, so I kept playing, and I played at a high level, because I was good at being a therapist, and I think that I was a really good therapist. But so everybody can look and say, well, look at your life, look what you have, and all of these things. But I was doing a poor job of leading me as a person, as a husband. I used to say that I was a great father back then, but you can't be a great father if you're not really being a good husband. Don't work like that. It doesn't work like that. The biggest gift that any man or woman can give their children is to love their partner. That's the biggest gift. So I wasn't doing a good job of leading myself. And when I started to do that, it was like, okay, if I was struggling with that, a lot of men are. But then the misconception is that women are doing it better, that women are speaking better. And this is no offense to women. Women may be speaking more words, but it doesn't mean that they're speaking better. So understanding that women were going through things, and then my wife at that time was taking care of the women's division. It was just a powerful thing that really helped change my life and wake me up in a lot of ways. And it was the stepping stone to everything that is now.
Awesome. And one thing, again, I'm listening to you, and there's things, it's funny because I talk to you all the time, but when I'm hearing you speak about it now, certain things are resonating. Leading yourself is the first step. And that's one thing I've been trying to do and get better at. And I believe that me trying to, with me growing the Forge and putting this message out and helping men become the leaders that they are meant to be, it's forcing me to lead myself even better.
Absolutely.
Because I can't help someone else if I'm not helping myself.
Well, it's also a welcome pressure to be consistent. My job is all of the videos that I put out on social media, everything that I do on stage. If you bump into me at the grocery store, am I the same person?
Yes.
If you bump into me when I'm out to eat, or you see me with my kids, am I the same person? Consistency matters. So to be great at your job and then go home and be a nightmare, that's not good. To be great at home and then go to work and be miserable, no. Pick who you're going to be, pick the vision you want for yourself, and be that in every area. And so, that part is, that consistency is amazing. So when people see my videos, by the time we get on the Zoom call to discuss doing business, all I have to be is the same person they've been watching. Can you do the same? Yeah. And that, and that really started to change things. But, getting introspective and being mindful about who we choose to spend our time with on a regular basis. How about our phones?
Oh, yeah.
You know who knows you better than anything or anybody else on the planet? Your phone.
Facebook, Instagram.
Somebody pick up your phone and start going through. That's who you are, because whatever you like or subscribe to or save on your phone keeps giving it to you on a loop.
Yes.
On a loop, nonstop. So I can sum up therapy in 30 seconds. What you think about all day impacts how you feel, then what you do, and then the consequences thereafter, either negative or positive.
Oh, yeah.
So what we speak about, what we think about, who we engage with, and what we scroll matters. So I'm very careful about what I subscribe to, what I like, because it's going to keep giving it to me. So I'm all for scrolling. Be on your phone. But are you getting bitter or better?
It's crazy because one thing I noticed, when I can tell when I'm being consistent, and it is from my phone. If I pick up YouTube, when I'm in the car, 90% of the time I got on a podcast, a sermon, a motivational video, whatever. But what's funny is when I haven't done that, I start getting other stuff coming up on my YouTube because it's suggested.
Right.
So then I'll get the Marvel movie suggestion. I'll get the rapper suggestion. Stuff I do like, but to me that's not productive. So I'm sitting, I'm like, wow, I must not have been listening. Mm-hmm. I must have been feeding myself the right stuff recently. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy that you put it that way, because you said your phone knows. My phone, if I got to scroll through 10 things to get something positive, that means I haven't been on it enough. So it's great. So next thing we're going to talk about is something you had said about who you spend your time with, and tying that in with, are you the same person all the time? We're going to go into that next, because I really have some thoughts about that. I'd like to hear your opinion on those.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So one thing that you had said, and I wanted to dive back into, was when you mentioned, are you the same person when they see you on camera and when they see you live or when they're sitting in a meeting. And I know you and I have talked about that when we talk about how if you are certain things that you're doing, like with me, with the Forge, with you, with your company, you have to ingest certain things in order to give them back out to people. And you can't do that consistently without changing. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked in the past just over breakfast about how sometimes you get that feedback or that question or that skepticism of people wondering, are you faking it? Are you really like that? And talk to us a little bit about that, because I know even myself, I've gone through that, because I'm obviously, none of us are the man we were in the past, hopefully. If you are, then you've been wasting a long time. But, you know, the person I am at 48 versus the person I was at, say, 28, even 35 is completely different. And it's not a, hey, I'm fake now, I'm this.
Right.
I just evolved. And when others don't do it, it can come across as they don't think you did it. So talk to me about that.
Well, a lot of times, and this is male or female, but we're talking to men right now. But I'll say it's for everybody. We don't have to feel guilty about our growth. It first comes with, I believe everything comes with a vision. So the vision may be that you want to be a certain type of person now, and whether that's a successful entrepreneur, whether that's moving up in the company, maybe as a dad or mom, whatever it is, what's your vision? But a vision without the vision factors is pointless. It's just cute. Okay. So whatever your thing is, what are the 3 to 5 things you need to do that when you do them consistently, the vision has to come true? First, let's get that. Okay, so whatever you want, what's your vision? What are your vision factors? Then now, what are you going to be consuming? And you mentioned whatever you're consuming, the books, the people, or the things you follow on social media, they're going to start becoming how you speak. Now, just because you're doing this doesn't mean that everybody in your circle, and that includes your family, that includes your husband, your wife, your kids, your mom, your dad, your coworkers, doesn't mean that they're doing it. So there's a couple things to be cognizant of. Number one, please never let your evolution elevate your ego.
Ooh, yeah.
Number one.
Powerful.
Because you want everybody to be on your growth, but they are allowed to stay the same. You are allowed to grow. They didn't have to grow with you. They're not reading what you read. They don't have the dreams that you have. And that has to be okay. A lot of times our ego says, well, because I did it starting yesterday, all of a sudden they need to do it starting yesterday. Like, you just changed.
Right. Yep.
If anybody would be mad, wouldn't it be them?
Yeah. You're the one who changed overnight.
You changed overnight. So never let your evolution elevate your ego. Okay, that was the issue that I had looking back in my previous marriage. I started to evolve and become, and it was easy for me to say, well, what are you doing down there? What are you doing? She had every right to stay the same, just like I had every right to change. Your friends have every right to stay the same, just like you have every right to change. So number 2 is we have to be mindful about the invite. Okay, so I went through this duality problem that a lot of successful people go through. I'll take it from me being, where I was at the time. I had a lot of some high school friends and college friends, still great to this day. I will never say anything bad about them. And, they're not entrepreneurs like I am, and they don't have to be. These are the people that if the stuff hit the fan tomorrow, that's who I call for real.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate to meet a few people nowadays in my life that I can consider friends. Right. But those guys from the past, yes. Now, I was going through a time when I was getting my first promotion in leadership. I was having my kids and, then started doing my business where I wanted to still go home to Philly and hang out with them. But the way they wanted to hang out isn't the way I wanted to hang out. And I remember coming home and saying it was a lackluster experience, not because of the company, but because of what we were doing and how they wanted to do it. Again, I wasn't leading myself and my life. So this is what I'm suggesting that you do. People, motivational speakers talk all the time about cutting people off. I said, do you know how rare that is? Do you know how rare it is that you really have to cut people off? I've had to cut one person off in my 46 years on this planet. One. So you don't always have to cut people off. What you do is modify and you provide other options. So you get to say, hey, I was thinking, instead of going to here, I was thinking that we do ... and then see who rolls with you. So instead of me going to the bar, and because at one point I had my Philly clothes and I had my work clothes. And then I was like, well, now I don't wear those clothes anymore. Times have changed. So now I only have work clothes because I don't really do much else, you know?
Right.
So now I'm looking like we're going to get robbed or something. I'm looking like I got more money than I have just because I'm wearing my work clothes. I don't know what. So I said, I don't want to go to these type of places anymore. No knock on them.
Yeah.
No knock if you want to go.
Right.
How about we have lunch downtown at 2:00 instead of going to the bar at 10:30 p.m.? Now, if I can get in trouble at 2 p.m. in the afternoon downtown eating outside at a cafe, I deserve everything I get.
Facts.
So once you know, your certain friends go, like some of my friends went, yeah, okay. Like it was no thought. Like, okay. Some people in our circle want to make the change, but they're not a leader like you.
That's it.
They didn't bring it up like you did. They didn't offer the option like you did. And here you come with an option. They said, okay. The ones who don't will start to fade. And then you start intentionally adding and putting yourself in other circles. So I started going to old school handshaking networking events when I started my business and doing different things. And in each of these type of events, you will every now and then meet this beacon. You'll see somebody and they'll walk in the room and you're like, I don't know who you are or what, but you're attracted to their energy. And I was a man, I'm talking about a man to another man. Like, I like your energy. I don't know who you are, but you're something. And we would just start talking. And I've met like 2 great best friends that I call now that way. So modify and offer other options of how to hang out with your existing friends and see who comes along, and get intentional about who you are inviting into your circle. And I have 3 big rules. I want to feel motivated, inspired, and idea filled before I hang out with a friend, while I hang out with someone, and after I hang out with someone. If all of that doesn't happen, then we don't hang out. That's how we lead ourselves in our relationships. So that's something that I did years ago, and it has really served me, and I hope it serves whoever may be listening and going through it.
What's crazy you say that, because again, you and I talk a lot, so a lot of this may be us repeating ourselves to each other, but you know, I noticed the same thing. They're waiting sometimes. There's people who are waiting for you to take the lead. They even behind the scenes see you as a leader. So when you make that recommendation, they're like, whew, thank goodness. And they're like, that's a great idea. Maybe I've been wanting to do it. And maybe they just never felt like initiating it. Right. So that's huge that you do that. And I like the idea that you never really have to cut anybody off, because I don't cut anybody off. Right. You know, unless only time I've ever felt the need to cut someone off, they directly did you wrong purposely. That's a whole different conversation. Because, you know, I mean, I'll be out similar to you, you know, I've been in a professional world for a long time. And now that I am growing our organization, I have to even more pay attention to what I do, where I am, how I'm presenting myself. And it's funny though, because I can still go places and my kids will see somebody who reminds me, for lack of a better way to put it, reminds me of the old me. And my kids are like, and I'll see these people, I'm shaking them hands, dapping them up. Yo, what's up, bro? Man, we're talking about old times when I used to get into trouble with them, when I used to hang with them. But it's never you change. It's never anything, because they see the integrity in what you're doing. Right.
And a lot of times, like the guys from my past, and like the guys you mentioned, they want you to succeed.
Yes.
They'll be mad at you if you didn't. They saw it in you.
Yeah.
And when we when we don't have the judgment or the act of cutting people off because they didn't or chose to say the same, there's where the respect lies.
Yep.
And what I found is, you're not for everybody right now. No, everybody's not ready. But when they're not ready, get ready. Do they know where to go?
Yeah.
Are you even better when they're not ready, get ready, and they go, hey, okay, I'm ready now, or I have some advice, or I want to start a business. I can't tell you how many text messages or emails I get from time to time from someone from my past that knowing how I was back then and how they knew me, we would never think that this would be the conversation we're having now. But now they're asking, they're knocking, saying, hey, I see what you're doing. I love your advice on something, or I like to do a training session with you. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like, that's really cool. Let's do it.
That is. And that when someone's not ready resonates with me, because how I got into my faith was exactly that. Greg was asking me for months to come to church. And I was like, that means I can't get trashed Saturday night. That means I have to sit here and hear about things I know I'm doing wrong and shouldn't be. And I just kept pushing it off. And, that day when they are ready is life changing. Because I remember talking to Greg on a Wednesday. And I was like, you know what? All right, I'm going to go to Sunday. We went. One of the best experiences of my life. And it's literally changed the entire course of my life.
Yeah.
So I'm very big on believing, like you said, you don't got to cut nobody off. You keep the invite out there, let them know they're always welcome. They'll either come or they won't. They'll come when they're ready. And it's huge. So another thing you had mentioned was leading yourself. What, for me, one thing I'm noticing, especially when I'm thinking about the men in community, in society, and what the Forge focuses on is men being the best version of themselves and being the leader God put them here to be. I always stress that I'm not talking about a leader as far as income, as a leader as far as status, as far as title. I'm talking about how are you influencing those around you. And to me, the way you influence those around you is how you lead yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit about when you say leading yourself and what you got better at, because you said you weren't in the beginning. Yeah. What are you doing now that is leading yourself versus previously?
So, one, when I talk about leading yourself, personal leadership, it's how we choose to show up to our life, to our work, and to our relationships. And can we do that in a way where we're influencing people positively? Are we impactful? Well, people remember what you said. Okay. Are you making positive decisions that move things forward? And are you holding yourself to high standards and expectations? Okay. And are you protecting? That's a big word that gets left out of leadership. So sometimes I say we got to protect our people from themselves. I have 4 kids. I need to protect them from themselves. Yeah. You know, the kid that's lazy. I have a kid that's ADHD, love him to death, but I can't tell him 5 tasks out of my mouth and expect him to get done. Sometimes I have to protect him from himself. Sometimes I have to protect him from me because I'm a motivator type, but not everybody responds to that. So I got to know when to back off sometimes. And then I also have to protect my time. Just because I'm a leader doesn't mean it's healthy for me to do everything for people. Leaders build other leaders. So a leader says, please accompany your problem with a suggested solution, and you not putting out every fire. That's not leadership. Okay. So that's what I mean by personal leadership. How I do it is I really separate a few different fields of my life. So physical, relational, so your relationships, and whether that's with your significant other, your family, your friends, spiritual, your financial, your mental. When all 5 of them are in sync, life is good.
Yes.
It's rare that they're all in sync all at the same time for very long, but a lot of time we have control over that. What are you doing for yourself physically? You know when you're proud of yourself physically. And as I've had to modify, I'm 46. I don't work out the same way I was when I was a 25-year-old athlete. However, I still work out, and I've modified it so I can work out and not hurt myself.
Yeah, that's,
you know, because I would push myself before. Oh, I can. No, I can't. Okay, I have a herniated disc. No, I can't. Yeah. So just because I can doesn't mean I should or should for too long. Financially, you know, they say money doesn't buy happiness. That's crap. Yes, it does. You know, money can buy you happiness, but it won't buy you joy.
Okay. Ooh, hold on. You can't remember what you were saying because you can't skip that. I'm gonna come back to that, but you can't skip that.
Money could buy you like I've been to Jamaica on the jet ski. It cost.
Yeah.
You know, there was times where I had $30 for 2 weeks for shopping for food for me and my kids. Like the fact that I can go to Burger King now whenever I want, however I want, or I can take my son out the Longhorn and we got steaks the other day for lunch just because. Like, I'm happy, so I don't have these big extravagant wants, but if I did, I could. Money does matter, but it won't buy you joy. Joy it comes from within. Happiness is external. When things go your way for a long enough period of time, you're happy. Can you have joy when you're not getting what you want? When the sky is falling? From a relational standpoint, remember that vision factor?
Yeah.
I'll sum up the relationship I want with my wife right now. I want to be that 80-year-old couple that's shuffling down a mall. Malls won't exist in 20 years, but shuffling down the grocery store, squeezing her backside. That's what I want. I want to be walking and squeezing, shuffling and squeezing at 80.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
But that's my vision. What are my vision factors? I need to know that woman's love language is words of affirmation, okay? And acts of service. I need to be doing those things on a consistent basis. I have 4 kids, one between us. The same dad that I was in giving and caring and loving and supportive and active with my other 3, she needs to see me do it with with ours, especially, and that's harder for me now, not hard out of love, but hard out of energy, because I'm 46, not 26 with a 3-year-old.
Right.
The other thing that she needs is for me to include her in decisions around the house. Like, I need to see her doing things around the house. She swings a hammer like no other. I don't. If I can't fix it with duct tape, it will stay broke.
Gotcha.
So I need to, when she's doing the things that I don't enjoy around the house, like projects and all of that stuff, I need to build her up. This is so great. This is so good. I need to be able to, give her the space to do her isolatory, solitary activities that she enjoys and praise her for it. So when I do those 3 things consistently, my marriage is great. Okay. So I mentioned financial, relational, mental. Know what you need for you. How do you best nurse yourself? How do you best nurse yourself? I talk about the 5 points of the day. You want to live your best life? One of them is how we return home after work.
Yes, that's impactful.
How do you nurse yourself? How do you nurse yourself when you've gotten to your max? Because we can all put on our Superman or Superwoman cape and fly around at Mach speed doing everything, only to eventually have a temper tantrum of, look how much I do around here. Well, a lot of times, most people aren't asking you to do that. That's what you feel like you should do. Or if you don't do it, no one will do it or do it your way. So when you get to that point, and hopefully before you get to that point, how do you best nurse yourself? For me, I know it's hanging out and playing chess with you sometimes.
Yes, sir. That's great. That's great.
I have never had a bad time with a cigar in this hand and a drink in another. Is it in my schedule? We all have a phone. You talk about how you take care of yourself. I am lucky to have the world's best executive assistant. Her name's Nicole. She's in the Philippines. Absolutely awesome. Most people can't do that or struggle to afford that, right? But the fact that we all have a phone in our pocket means we all have an executive assistant. I have date time with my wife scheduled in my phone. Do you? I have daddy-daughter time scheduled in my phone. My 23-year-old daughter just texted me today. May 2nd at 7:30, we will be at a diner. She's in my phone. My sons are in my phone. I'm in my phone. And I put alerts to it. So I got to ignore doing great. And I won't do that. You'll tend to work around what's in your phone. So that's how I take care of me. So all of those aspects. How are you doing with it? What's your vision for them? What are you going to do consistently? And is it in your phone? Is it in your daily?
Wow. You had some good ones on that.
I have one more.
Oh, go ahead.
I have one more. And I call it Get Your Life Together Saturday. So one Saturday a month, I pick the first Saturday of every month, and I rate myself in the various roles that I play. So you could do as a person, overall, you as a person, as a partner, so a significant other, as a parent, and if you have more than one kid, write down all kids' names. I got 4 kids. Believe me, I got 4 different ratings. Okay?
Gotcha.
As a professional. Okay, so at your job. Now maybe as a son, as a friend, whatever role you value, put it down. Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being the absolute best, 1 being the absolute worst. Where are you rating yourself? So whatever your number, let's say you're an 8 at something. Great. What's that 8 mean to you? Now be careful to be kind to yourself. Because most people, somebody tells me they're an 8, I say, well, what's that 8 mean to you? You know what they do, Ed? They proceed to tell me why they're not a 9 or 10. No. Why are you not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? So you're a 3? Don't tell me why you're not a 4, 5, 6. Tell me why you're not a 1 or 2. What's the positive about your number? Now, what do you believe would take you up a number or 2? You never ask a 2 to be a 10. That's unfathomable. And even if you could do it, it's hard to maintain that type of effort. But you can always ask a 2 to be a 3 or 4. What does it take? What do you believe it would take? Now, everybody can have an answer of what they would do to move up a number or 2 in each role. The pro and concern to that is this. The pro is we all have an answer. Great. Write it down. Literally write it down. So this is my number. This is what it means to me to move up a number or 2. I do this. We now have the good thing about what we're willing to do. But remember what we talked about before, the marriage? If that's not what the person you're about to do it with for needs most from you right now, then so what? On your way to a personal or professional temper tantrum of, look how much I do. Well, you're doing what you want to do. If it's not what they need, then so what?
Ooh, that's
right?
big. Yeah.
So now, okay, great. Now you might want to ask the get great question. Only ask this if you mean it. Because if you're a leader enough to ask, we all have to be leader enough to listen. So the get great question says you sit back and look at this and you say, okay, what number am I most proud of? What number am I least proud of? What do I want to do here? And maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing, but you got your plan now. Most of us will go into an annual review at our job and your number's already circled. This is one of the few times you get to circle yours. There's nothing, you can't even be mad at you. How you gonna be mad at you? You gave your number. And nobody knows it but you. So the get great question says, is there somebody on that list that you might want to go to and say, hey, I want to be great here? It could be your wife. I'll pretend I'm talking to my wife. Hey, wife, I want to be the greatest husband in the freaking world to you. I get hit by a bus tomorrow, you'll find somebody else, but dang on it, he won't be like me. What do you need most from me right now? That's it. Now I got to teach you something else because this can go. I'm going to tell you how most people are going to answer it. I've seen my son do this with his coach. My oldest son, best shooter, knocked down 3-pointer, shooter with his eyes closed, couldn't get off the bench. Coach, I would like, not what I deserve. Stay away from that bully where you deserve. I would like to get more playing time. I want to start. What do you need most from me right now? Whether you ask your coach, your boss, your wife, your kids, here's what most people are going to say. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's the laziest leadership answer of all time.
Yep.
However, you want to lead yourself, you got to understand why. Number one, they may not have been thinking about it like you've been. The fact that you're asking it, look at all that you've done to lead up to this question. They haven't been doing that about you.
True story.
Maybe you caught them halfway to the bathroom and they got to pee. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons. Maybe they don't think that you can handle their truth right now. So they say, just keep doing what you're doing. I call that a leader's pacification. They put the pacifier in the baby's mouth. So now, as a leader leading our own lives, we now get to say, hey, I appreciate you saying that, but I really want to know. So if I'm talking to somebody personally, I want to ask you later on in the week, and if the answer is the same, great. If I'm talking professionally, hey, I appreciate you might have been busy. I hit you with this out of nowhere. Is there a better time that we can talk so I can respect your time? Like I'm available Thursday at 3:00 or Monday at 10. Which time works for you? See, now we're giving them permission to tell us the truth and time to think. So now we're not operating off the emotion of the minute. Okay? And their half thought. So now we can come back, and if they say the same thing and everything's good, great. I've asked my son this one time, my oldest son, and he said, this all good. No. So he said one day, well, Dad, I need you to back off. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
The stinger.
But that's what he said. So now I marry what I want, what I want to do with what he needs. Okay. Hey, I'm your dad and I love you. And I know I can be much sometimes. So I am not willing, not that I can't, I am not willing as your father to back off, but so much. What does it look like for you? I started doing it. Boom. He took off. Asked my wife, oh, nothing. No, because if we got in the argument tonight, you have something to say.
You have a bunch of stuff to say, right? A bunch of stuff.
So I'm going to ask you again. And if it's okay, well, if you do the dishes more, we could, okay, hey, dishes, that's all you need? Shoot, I can do dishes and dry them.
Right.
Okay, I can do that. So maybe your boss has something to say. Whatever it is, you're leader enough to ask. We better be leader enough to listen, because now is not the time to get defensive or deflect. It's time to consume. And the least you can say, the better. Simply consume. And then whatever they want, can you do it just a tad bit out of your comfort zone so you don't wind up resenting them?
Gotcha.
Because you don't have to do any of it, but you can no longer complain about what you're getting or not getting.
Love it. Love it. Wow.
And you do it once a month. That's 12 times a year. Do you know how much better of a person you would be doing that 12 times a year? And I don't care how busy we are. We got time to sit down for a half hour once a month and get that.
Definitely do. All right. So for the next two things I want to touch on going forward. One, I couldn't let it slide. I want you to discuss the difference between happiness and joy, because that was a deep perspective that I've never actually thought of, and I'm sure a lot of people have never heard that. You always hear that money can't buy happiness. You said it can, and I was interested on where you were going with that, and then you hit us with the but it can't buy joy. So if you could clarify what you mean between what is happiness versus joy.
Well, in a lot of my trainings, I always start with work-life harmony. You want better work-life harmony. You want a better life. Success and leadership is a language. And we must first eliminate some bully words. But, if, can't, try, just, only, should, deserve, and happy. Happy is a bully word because most of us would want to be happy. I think all of us would raise their hand and want to be happy. Now, I've worked in mental health for a long time. Not everybody raises their hand to that, okay? So let's assume we all want to be happy. Who the heck gets to be happy all the time? That sounds crazy.
True story.
My mom passed away 2 years ago. I wasn't happy at her funeral and doing cartwheels. I was grateful for her life and the experiences, but I can't say I was happy. I've been cut from a football team, playing arena, like my time was up. Okay, I wasn't happy. And we act as if there's not value in other feelings. There's value in your anger. There's value in jealousy. There's value in being sad. As long as that's not where you stay, but there's great lessons in it. You're jealous of somebody? Good. What are you jealous about? How do you start to create that in your life and opportunities? You're angry about something? Good. You didn't like that. So either you learn not to do that with other people or you learn how to do anger. Like, there's value in other feelings. We're human beings. We have to have them. Who gets to be happy all the time? And happiness is transactional. People have been paying for happiness since the beginning of time, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Oldest business in the world.
Facts.
You can pay to go on a vacation. I've never been upset I've been upset on the cruise, but not for long.
Yeah.
So you can pay for happiness, whether it's the jet ski in Jamaica, whether it's the car that you just bought, it was your dream car. It's momentary. It's fleeting. Joy is internal, and joy comes from gratitude. Can you wake up every day and have gratitude? Look, here's the simplest thing to have gratitude. There are 7.5 billion, a little bit more now, people on this planet. And more than half of them will trade places with you right now. They'll take your life. They'll take that car. They'll take your wife. They'll take your kids. They'll take the job. They'll take the money you make. They'll take everything you complain about right now. Have gratitude. I wake up every day and I feel like the luckiest man in the world. Now, what I do with this day is up to me. But wow, I get to live this? I call it TGIT. Most people TGIFing Monday through Thursday. I say, thank goodness it's today. Before my feet hit the floor in the morning, I say two things. Let's be great and have some fun doing it. Because there's too many people being great, making a lot of money, successful, got the titles, but they're miserable. And there's way too many people having fun and not being great. Okay, so let's do both. I text my kids that in the morning. They get to school, hey, be great and have some fun doing it. You know, so let's be great and have some fun doing it. And then I say, what are my wins for the day? So before my feet hit the ground, I know what my wins are for today. I know what my wins are. Now, I got a list of things that I get to cross off. And if you're a type A person, cross it off. But that list tends to make you busy instead of better.
Oh, yeah. Facts.
At the top of your to-do list, and I say get to-do list, write wins. What are your wins? I usually have 2 to 3. So if anything gets crossed off, that does. And before I go to bed at the end of the night, I ask myself this question very quietly to myself. Not do it 5 days a week. You could do it 7 if you like. What was my biggest accomplishment of the day? Having an answer to that question will allow you to win the day instead of the day consistently kicking your butt.
Wow.
Ask your partner. Ask your kids. They have an answer. Now you know what to celebrate with them for things out. Like if I ask my wife that, she works in land development. I don't know what she's talking about all the time. But when I ask her, what was your biggest win today? What was your biggest accomplishment today? Now I know what to hug her for and appreciate her for things outside of being just my wife. Not just. For things being outside of my wife. I want to be that man to say great job to her, not just the boss at work, not just the co-worker at work. I get to celebrate that with you too. So those are some things from like the 5 points of the day that are huge. TGIT, have gratitude. I used to do this activity where when I was a mental health therapist, and I would say 1 to 100. What are the things you're grateful for? People get to like 10, 20. Oh my God. 10. I said, shoot, you can have that little plastic piece on your shoelace. You ever have that thing break? Mm-hmm. Frustrating.
Yeah.
You can be grateful for that.
Hard to tie your shoes with that missing.
It's called an aglet. You can put that on the list. Okay? So 1 to 100. Now, here's the activity if you wanted to do it. Circle 9 of the things on that list that you're most grateful for. Next, cross out 3, leaving you with 6. Out of those 6, cross out 3 more. That's hard. Those 3 that are left, that's who you really are. That's what matters most. That's what you're grateful for. That's what you live every day.
Man, you got me ready to bring out a pen and paper and write my list down right here.
My list surprised me because mine was love, health. It was love, health, and dreams. So I wanted that. Those were my 3 big things. And if I really had to put it down to 1, it was love. I'll take a shorter life if I loved good. If I got love good, I'll take a shorter life than that. So it wasn't health. You know, I want health, please. I take health, but I would hate to have a healthy life and live until I'm 90 with no love. I want to follow my dreams, but I'll sacrifice my dreams for love.
Wow.
I'll go work. I'm not going back to McDonald's, but I work at McDonald's to support my family if I had to. So my dreams are very important, but it really came down to love. So if that was the number 1 thing on my list out of 100, then how am I doing at it? Every day, not just when I feel it. Love is not just about this feeling. Can I do love when I don't feel in the loving mood? Can I love my wife when she's on my last nerve? Can I love my kids when they're failing this grade and I'm tired of having the same conversation over and over again? Can I love when I'm tired? Can I love when I'm hurt? So that was really huge for me to really see that was my final 3 and then 1.
Gotcha. All right. So next thing I want to talk about is, you know, I was thinking about it. and you got 4 books. 3 of them are about leadership and evolution and things like that, and you have the one about the 7 ways of love. So that's going to be one of the things I want to talk about next, is what made you decide to write that book. And I really want to know that, because as men, one thing that is important is your significant other, and how are you cherishing them and treating them. And I believe, unfortunately, that's one of the things that's been lacking in society, is men understanding how to treat women. Not that I'm an expert at it, not that anybody's an expert at it, but I think it's important. So I did want to talk to you about that as one of our next topics. All right, so final thing, like I said to you, I wanted to talk about, I think it ties directly in with the Forge's mission, and was your book, 7 Ways of Love. With you focusing so much on leadership, work-life harmony, and when I'm hearing you talk, it's all, how you conduct yourself, how you lead yourself. What made you talk about, write a book about love?
The answer is really funny, because, like I said, I didn't mean for this to be a book. I would put together a conference, You Evolving Now conference, back in 2015.
Okay.
And at the conference, there was other speakers. So I said, I was prepared to do it all, but now everybody has their different portion. So you have one person about finance, another person about fitness, because I really wanted to encompass everything. So I said, I'll take relationships. And I came up with this concept called 7 Ways to Love. That's how it started. I didn't mean for it to blow up and be a book. But in writing, and I was writing once a week at that time.
Okay.
And then when I sat back and said, okay, 7 ways to love, let me look at everything that I've written. And I was like, this. And it was the 7 main ones. And I looked at it and I said, these are the 7 things that make and break relationships. I'm not going to give them all away here. Go to youevolvingnow.com and pick it up.
I was about to tell you, don't give it all out.
But what I really learned was that love is a verb. It's not something that you feel. It's not this thing. It's something that you do. And if it's something that you do, then it's something you could do great or you could do poorly. Choose. So can you do love? Number one, can you do self-love? So I'm big on making a vow to yourself. Depending on your age, you may remember Dennis Rodman pulling up in Chicago in a wig, a blonde wig, and white wedding gown to marry himself.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now, the world, I remember watching it when it was happening, and I remember the world going, this is crazy. And I thought it was freaking brilliant. Minus the wig and the dress. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That's your thing. Rock it out. The concept of marrying yourself. In other countries, in other cultures, there's rites of passage to becoming a man, to becoming a woman, to getting all of these different things. We don't have one. What would it really be like if we all decided to make some vows and marry ourselves? Make some vows to you. That's self-love. Make some vows to you. What are you going to do? And not be looking down on other people while you do it. How are you going to become? So, that's an important part of love. But then the other part of love is, are you loving somebody because they were, you meet somebody, you met at the right time. You were getting what you wanted and what you needed from that person at that moment. Can you love through change? You get married, guess what? All of a sudden, these expectations, hidden, conscious, unconscious expectations. You go from friends to boyfriend and girlfriend expectations. Then you become married. All of a sudden, somebody becomes a husband or wife. Oh, now you got these different expectations that you may not have knew existed or communicated. All of a sudden, now your mom and dad, different expectations. We talked about before, you've now evolved or are going to evolve or become in this area. Is it okay that your partner stays the same? You talked about financial. Can you love through making money or somebody not making money? Kids and finances, number 1 and 2 cause of divorce. Can you love through that? Can you love if you're making less? Can you love when you're making more? You want to find out who somebody really is? It's not in their struggle. Most people have the grit to get through a struggle. That's right. Want to find out who somebody is? give them everything. Give them everything they ever asked for. You're going to see who you really are. That's when you find out who you really are.
Yeah, because that amplifies exactly who you are. Money amplifies the person you already are.
Exactly. So can you love through success? And that's something that, and in the book, I talk about a lot of different things that that you can do. And the other thing is to really be a dream leader for your partner. Like, I played football a long time. Cheerleaders, I tip my hat to you. I am not getting up on some pyramid and falling to my death and all of that stuff. Like, look, cheerleaders, great, but they don't impact the game. However, dream leaders do. Do you know your partner's dream? Because we know our kids' dream. We ask them all the time. And I'm sure that you are willing to do whatever you can within your finances and your time to help your kid live their dream. How about your partner? What's theirs? Do you even know it? How do you support it? How do you, that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do, especially on a consistent basis when the dream isn't getting much traction. So it's, there's a lot of different things about love, but self-love first, having that love for other people, loving them through change, and understanding that love is more than simply a feeling. It's a verb. It's something you can do. And if you can do it, you could do it great. You could do it poor. You need to choose. And then you need to do it daily.
Wow. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, I just wanted to say thank you for coming on. Thank you for all the nuggets you dropped, and it was a lot. I didn't have to talk much at all. I just sat here I asked you a question, you hit us all with a bunch of stuff, so that was awesome. So thank you for your time. I can see why you're so highly requested, why all these businesses are grabbing you, because what you're giving out is what we need more of out in the world, out in society. So I'm happy to call you friend. I learned something from you. We can go to breakfast one week, play chess or decks, and guess what? I learn something new every time. So thank you for doing that. And again, thank you for coming on. And you guys, if you want to reach Andre, tell him how to contact you.
The easiest way is evolvingnow.com. So it's YOU, evolvingnow.com, for everything from speaking engagements to books, free videos, and app, online programs, and everything. So thank you guys for listening, and thank you for having me.
No problem. It's my pleasure. So thank you guys for tuning in again today. And please make sure to watch this video, like this video, and if you see the value, subscribe to this video. Please make sure that you follow us at theforgeforum.org. You follow us on Facebook, on social media, www.theforgeforum.org, and on Facebook we are at The Forge Forum. Same thing on Instagram. Again, thank you for your time. Tune in next time. We got some more great guests coming for you. Prepare to be forged.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and, more importantly, learned something that can affect your perspective on yourself and manhood as a whole. If you have found the value that we expect that you did, we encourage you to hit the like and subscribe button and share this video. Spread the word and tell anyone in your life who can benefit. We'll see you on the next episode. Prepare to be forged.